My brother was always the golden child, the soft one, the favorite. If I got an A, he got a standing ovation for a B minus. If I scraped my knee, I got be careful next time. If he tripped, it was my fault for not warning him about the floor. You get the picture. But this isn't about childhood jealousy. It's about how the family's golden boy turned out to be made of fool's gold. And how his obsession with a girl he'd never met, just a pretty face on a screen, pushed our family into ruin. It started quietly, like most disasters do. A few late-night laughs coming from his room, the blue glow of a monitor under his door. Harmless stuff, we thought. Streaming, gaming, whatever kids his age do. Mom thought it was cute. He's making friends online, she said. It's better than him being out doing God knows what. Friends? No. It was one friend. One very specific friend. A girl. A streamer. I won't say her name. This isn't about dragging her. It's about him. And about what blind obsession looks like in the digital age. He was simping. Hard. At first, we didn't notice the money. He was using his allowance, selling some old stuff on eBay. No red flags. But then he started asking to borrow money from Mom. Just a little here and there. 20 for pizza. 50 for something important. You know how it goes. Little lies, easy to ignore. Until it wasn't. One day, Mom's credit card was declined. She thought it was a glitch. The next day, it was declined again. She called the bank. 37 separate transactions. All to the same name. All labeled as donations. $312,000. Gone. My mother collapsed in the kitchen when she heard it. My father didn't say a word. He just walked out and stood in the yard for hours, staring into nothing. And my brother? He was crying. But not out of guilt. He was crying because the girl, his dream girl, had banned him from her channel after he sent a desperate message asking if she'd ever talk to him in private. She banned him. Blocked him. Erased him. That was the moment it hit him. And maybe, just maybe, it was the first real consequence he'd ever faced in his life. But by then, it was too late. We lost the house. The mortgage wasn't being paid. They'd been auto-paying utilities on that same credit card. Everything unraveled fast. My parents moved into a small apartment they could barely afford. And then, they called me. I live 2 states away. I have my own life. My own bills. But that didn't stop the texts. Or the guilt trips. Or the begging. Can you help? Just for a few months? Just until we get back on our feet. My brother wasn't working. Still isn't. He says he's mentally recovering. My parents defend him. He's fragile, they say. He didn't mean to do it. Didn't mean to? Every single donation was manual. He clicked every button, typed every message. Notice me. You're amazing. You saved my life. Over and over again. He meant it. Every bit of it. The part he didn't mean was to ruin ours. They still baby him. Even now. He sits in his room, scrolling social media, watching her streams through fake accounts. Like some kind of digital ghost haunting a woman who has no idea who he really is. Sometimes I wonder, does she know what happened? Does she know her stream bankrupted a family? That some wide-eyed boy bled his entire world dry just for a flicker of attention? Probably not. But I do. And I can't forget it. Worse, I can't forgive it. Not because of the money, but because of what it revealed. My parents raised us both. Same roof. Same food. Same rules. But when it came down to it, they'd rather protect the one who destroyed everything than stand by the one who stayed grounded. They chose their favorite, even when he failed them. So now, they call me. They cry on the phone. Tell me they miss me. That they're sorry. That family is forever. But where was forever when I needed backup? When I was busting my ass to build a life, and they were shoveling money into a fantasy. I didn't pick this war, but I sure as hell won't be the one to lose it. And the worst part? They still don't blame him. They blame the girl. The streamer. She took advantage of him, they say. She manipulated him. No. She did her job. She was entertaining. She was beautiful. She said thank you when someone tipped. That's her business. Her brand. He was the one who turned a smile into a promise. He was the one who thought kindness was a currency that could buy love. And now they want me to clean it all up. To be the responsible one. To fix the unfixable. You know what that feels like? It feels like standing in a burning house with a bucket of water and hearing your family say, "Why aren't you doing more?" And I'm tired of burning. They showed up at my door one morning. No warning. Just a knock. I opened it, and there they were, Mom's eyes swollen from crying, Dad with that hollow look he'd worn since the fallout. And my brother, standing behind them, hands in his hoodie pockets, as glued to his shoes like he wasn't part of this world anymore. We had nowhere else to go, Mom whispered. And just like that, the chaos moved in. I had a 2-bedroom apartment, barely enough space for me and my work. Now it was the 4 of us, breathing the same stale air, pretending like we weren't slowly collapsing from the inside out. I set boundaries. I had to. No money. No more enabling. I'd already paid enough, emotionally, mentally, and yeah, even financially. I told them they could stay for 2 weeks. That was it. But you know how these things go. 2 weeks turned into 3. Then a month. I'd come home from work to find dishes piled in the sink, my groceries half-eaten, my brother still glued to his screen. He wasn't streaming anymore, just watching. Still following the same girl from new accounts. Still donating when he could, using stolen gift cards or asking strangers online to send him help. I told him he needed therapy. He laughed. I don't need therapy, he said. I just need her to talk to me. That sentence, it stuck with me. Not because it was shocking, but because he meant it. Deep down, he still believed this was salvageable. That one message, one perfect donation, would win her back. But there's no back. There was never a beginning. My mom defended him again. Said he was grieving. Grieving what? A fantasy? And my dad, always the silent soldier, just nodded and mumbled something about boys being boys. No. Boys grow up. Men own their mistakes. This wasn't grief, it was delusion. One night, I snapped. I came home late after a brutal shift. All I wanted was silence. But there they were, arguing in the kitchen over who finished the last of the orange juice. Grown adults shouting over juice, while my brother sat on the couch, headset on, muttering, "Thanks for the follow," to someone I couldn't see. I lost it. "Get out," I said. "All of you." They froze. My mom looked at me like I'd stabbed her. "You don't mean that." But I did. "I didn't burn this family down," I told them. "I'm just done trying to rebuild it." They didn't leave that night, but the shift had happened. The warmth was gone. Even my brother looked different, as if, for the first time, he realized he was the problem. He tried to apologize the next morning. Stammered something about being lost, about not knowing how to stop. "You can start by logging off," I said. "You can start by living in the real world." But that world terrified him. He didn't know who he was without her stream playing in the background. Without her smile. Without the illusion that maybe, just maybe, he mattered to someone who made him feel seen. What he didn't get was that being seen isn't the same as being loved. And what my parents didn't get was that enabling him wasn't love, it was cowardice. But they couldn't face that truth. So instead, they turned on me. "You've changed," Mom said. "You're cold now." No, I was just done being the warm one while they lit matches behind my back. They left a week later. Not because they wanted to, but because I forced them. I told them I'd call the landlord. Call the cops if I had to. They packed their bags. No hugs. No tears. Just quiet resentment. My brother looked back once before they got in the car. I could see it in his face, the cracks finally showing. Maybe even a flicker of guilt. But guilt without action is just decoration. They went back to their apartment. Smaller than before. I hear my dad's trying to get work again. My mom is selling things online. And my brother? Still jobless. Still online. Still pretending. They don't call anymore. The silence is loud, but I've learned to live in it. Sometimes I wonder what could have changed if they'd just said no earlier. If they hadn't handed him the matchbook. If they hadn't stood there and watched him set fire to everything we built. But regrets are useless now. All that's left is this story. And maybe that's why I'm telling it. Because somewhere out there, another family is on the same path. Another kid is watching a screen, thinking a donation can buy affection. Another parent is saying, it's just a phase. It's not. It's a hole. And if you don't stop digging, eventually you hit the bottom. And by then, it's not just your problem anymore. The worst part isn't the money, or the betrayal, or even the collapse of what used to be my family. It's the denial. The way they still talk about him like he's just struggling a little, like this was some bad semester at college or a breakup he'll get over. They talk about his potential, like it's hiding somewhere under the wreckage, just waiting to bloom if someone would only give him a chance. But no one talks about the damage. No one talks about the bills they stopped paying, the insurance they let lapse, the future they mortgaged for a few emojis and a live stream chat. No one talks about how my parents chose emotional comfort over responsibility, how they let him fall and called it love. I tried to be the adult. I tried to be the one who said what needed to be said. But every time I opened my mouth, I became the villain. You're too hard on him. You don't understand anxiety. He's just sensitive. No, he's not sensitive. He's selfish. Because you can be anxious and still not drain your family's savings. You can be struggling and still not destroy what others built for you. There's a difference between hurting and hurting others. My brother crossed that line and never looked back. But I did. And what I saw in that rearview mirror wasn't just a broken family. It was a broken system. Because my brother didn't learn this in a vacuum. He learned it at home. He learned that someone would always pick up the tab, that consequences were optional, that if he cried hard enough, someone would always come running. Even now, months later, I get messages from my mom. Passive-aggressive ones. Pictures of old family dinners. Memes about forgiveness. Quotes about blood being thicker than water. And every time, I don't reply. Because I've learned something important. You don't owe loyalty to people who weaponize love. You don't owe silence to people who call your honesty cruelty. And you don't owe forgiveness to people who've never even said, "I'm sorry." You can miss someone and still not let them back in your life. You can love someone and still not trust them with your peace. That's where I am now. Trying to rebuild a life not just separate from them, but protected from them. A life where I don't flinch when my phone rings. Where I don't feel obligated to carry someone else's weight. But healing isn't linear. There are days I still feel the sting. Days I wake up and wonder if I was too harsh. If there was something more I could have done. Some way I could have saved them. But then I remember what they did with everything I gave them. And I stop wondering. Some nights, I imagine a version of my brother who got out early. Who stopped before it went too far. Who unplugged the computer, stepped outside, and saw the world for what it really was. That version of him doesn't exist. Not because it was impossible, but because he didn't want to be saved. Not really. He wanted the fantasy more than he wanted the truth. And the truth is harsh. The truth is that she was never going to love him. She doesn't even know his name. He was a username, a $sign, a viewer in a sea of viewers. He gave her everything, and she gave him what she gives everyone, a smile and a thank you. He mistook performance for intimacy. And we all paid the price. I think a lot about that girl, the streamer. What would she do if she knew? Would she care? Would she feel responsible? I doubt it. And I don't blame her. Not anymore. She's just part of a system that rewards parasocial loyalty. That blurs the line between fan and friend. That turns affection into a transaction. But my brother didn't want a transaction. He wanted a connection. He wanted her to see him, not just read his name. To feel something when he spoke, to mean something in a world that made him feel invisible. And that's the tragedy. Because he was seen, just not by the person he wanted. If someone had intervened earlier, if my parents had asked where the money was going, if my brother had even one real friend who told him, "Hey man, this isn't healthy." But he didn't. He lived in a bubble of digital applause, surrounded by people who encouraged him to give more, say more, be more. As long as he paid. That's the thing about online validation. It never asks if you're okay. It only asks if you're still watching, still tipping, still feeding the machine. And my brother fed it until he had nothing left. There's this memory I can't shake. A few weeks before everything came crashing down, I was visiting home. I passed by his room and saw his screen. There was the girl, smiling, laughing at some comment in the chat. And there he was, staring at her like she was sunlight, and he'd been living in darkness his whole life. He didn't notice me watching. I saw him type something, then delete it, then type it again, then click send. He waited like a kid holding his breath underwater. She didn't respond. Someone else did. A moderator, probably. "Please don't spam," they wrote. And my brother froze. His whole face collapsed. That moment, it broke something in me. Not because I felt sorry for him, but because I realized how deep it went. This wasn't a crush. This was dependency, addiction, worship. And no one in that house was willing to admit it. The night they left my apartment, my dad tried to shake my hand. I didn't take it. Not out of hate, just out of exhaustion. I had nothing left to offer them. No more emotional credit. No more space to hold their denial. He didn't press it. Just nodded, like he understood. Maybe he did. Maybe that was the first real thing he'd done in years, accepting that I had to let go. They drove off without another word. My brother didn't look back this time. A week later, Mom sent me a message. A long one. Apologizing, sort of. Explaining things I didn't ask for. Telling me they were looking into financial counseling. That my brother was cutting back on screen time. I didn't reply. Because cutting back isn't enough when you've set fire to everything. You don't get to say, "We're trying," after you've already buried the house. I think the hardest part of all this is mourning people who are still alive. They're still out there. Breathing, living, making decisions. But they're not who they used to be. Or maybe they are, and I'm the one who finally sees it. And once you see clearly, you can't go back to squinting. I miss the family I thought I had. I miss the version of my brother who laughed at stupid jokes, who tried to beat me at Mario Kart, who used to sit beside me at dinner and talk about nothing. But that brother is gone. And this one, the one who traded us all for a dream, is still searching for something he'll never find on a screen. He thinks love is something you earn by giving more. That if you're loyal enough, generous enough, visible enough, someone will eventually choose you. He doesn't understand that real love doesn't need proof. He gave proof. Thousands of dollars worth. She gave him a thank you. And now he's left with silence. Not hers, his own. Because what he's really afraid of isn't rejection. It's being ordinary. He thought if he gave enough, he could matter. But you can't buy meaning. You build it. And he never learned how. I used to think stories like this happened to other families. You hear about some guy blowing his savings on a streamer, and you laugh. You scroll past the headline. You think, what an idiot. You don't imagine it could be your brother, your family. Your life turned into a cautionary tale. But here we are. The crazy thing is, no one wants to talk about this stuff. Not really. Because it's messy. Because it's embarrassing. Because it's easier to call it a mistake than admit someone you love built their entire self-worth around a stranger's attention. And we're all complicit, in a way. We built a world where loneliness is monetized. Where attention is a currency. Where connection is simulated, packaged, and sold in monthly tiers. And people like my brother? They bought in. Fully. Completely. Willingly. He wasn't stupid. He was desperate. And desperation makes people do stupid things. I don't think he ever meant to hurt us. I don't think he even realized he was doing it. That's part of what makes it so tragic. In his mind, he wasn't destroying anything. He was surviving. Trying to feel loved. Seen. Valued. But survival that comes at the expense of everyone around you isn't survival, it's surrender. He surrendered to the illusion. To the fantasy that if he just kept giving, eventually someone would give back. But real relationships don't work that way. You can't download intimacy. You can't subscribe to connection. You have to earn it. And not with money. With effort. With presence. With being there when it's hard. With choosing real over easy. Truth over comfort. My brother never learned that. Maybe he will, one day. Maybe rock bottom will teach him what my words couldn't. Or maybe he'll stay there, building castles out of live streams and pretending they're homes. As for me, I've moved on. I don't mean that in some dramatic, cold way. I still think about them. I still check their names on social media sometimes, just to make sure they're breathing. I still feel that tug of guilt when I hear a mother's voice that sounds like mine used to. But I don't let it drag me down anymore. Because there's a difference between remembering and returning. I remember everything. The lies. The nights. The money. The screaming. The silence. I remember the hollow look in my father's eyes. The desperation in my mother's voice. The blank, obsessive stare on my brother's face. But I won't go back. Not because I don't love them. Because I finally learned to love myself, too. And sometimes loving yourself means closing a door that's burning on the other side. Not out of hate, but because if you keep it open, you burn with it. So this is my story. Not just about a brother who donated over $300,000 to a girl who didn't know his name, but about a family who refused to see the truth. About the cost of silence, the danger of comfort, the illusion of control. And maybe, if you're listening, really listening, you'll ask yourself the hard questions. Is someone you love falling down the same hole? Are you? And if so, are you ready to stop digging? Because no fantasy is worth the reality it buries. Not one. Not ever.